13 out of 15 people at our $3 million a year business are based in the Philippines. In fact, I am the only US-based team member right now. We're growing rapidly year over year, and a big part of that comes down to our remote employees. But most founders either pay way too much for talent in the US, or they try to pay the bottom of the barrel, $4 an hour, $3 an hour overseas, and they end up with some kind of disaster. So in this video, I'm going to break down exactly how to hire remote employees for your business, from finding the right talent to onboarding them and setting them up, training them up for success. It's everything that we've learned from placing remote employees into over 300 companies. So let's dive in. Now, why should you hire remote employees? I first want to talk about why you should actually consider hiring a remote employee. Hiring a high school worker in the US could cost you up to $15 to $16 or more, and that's without healthcare, without payroll tax, W-2 expenses, etc. So with the right approach, you can save 50 to 70% compared to US-based hires for similar roles. Now, there is a misconception about what hiring overseas talent is like, but you need to get rid of this prejudice. Most founders have some kind of negative connotation when they think of outsourcing or hiring VAs. They think that that means call centers in India or getting locked into big long-term contracts. But the reality is completely different when you do it the right way. We staff the same people for clients that we do for ourselves. Our Filipino talent speaks very fluent English. We've had people joke that our executive assistants have better English than most Americans. They're far more similar culturally than most people realize, and they have an amazing get-it-done attitude that I see every day in our internal team members. Every day, I'm blown away by the creativity they bring, the problems that they are solving, and just the positive energy that they bring to our team. A lot of founders also hear overseas talent, and they immediately think, wow, I can pay them $3 an hour, $4 an hour. But the reality is that if you want top talent that is equivalent to somebody here in the US, that really doesn't work to pay them $3, $4 an hour. If you're willing to save 50% compared to American talent, instead of trying to save 95%, then you can find remote workers who will be the perfect fit for you. Now, what roles should you hire for remotely? Honestly, pretty much any role that can be done remotely can be done remotely overseas. The most common one that we see really is executive assistants. These are people that are managing your inbox, your calendar, your travel, event management, your tasks, personal projects, basically keeping your life organized so that you can focus on the big high-level stuff for your organization. Then you've got your operations roles like general admin, project management, CRM maintenance, and the behind-the-scenes work that really keeps businesses running, but doesn't need to be done by somebody actually physically in the office. Now, marketing support is another big one, like social media management, content creation, lead generation, and list building. All of this can be done remotely for a fraction of the cost. And then there are more specialized roles too, like bookkeepers, paralegals, real estate assistants. If it can be done on a laptop, it can probably be done by a remote employee. Though there are some roles which I do recommend keeping in the US. First could be graphic design, at least if you're targeting US customers. A lot of the design aesthetics in the Philippines and in Southeast Asia are just culturally different from what American audiences are used to. It's a little bit like finding a diamond in the rough with trying to find really good design talent in the Philippines that really has a knack for what US audiences will really respond to. It's really not bad work, it just does not always land the same way. Second is partnerships. So this is the kind of role that really does require real in-person relationship building. And the third is SDR, or sales reps. In my experience, US sellers tend to be stronger at building those personal connections with prospects over time. They're also much more likely to have something very relatable to their prospects, and they can also meet in person much easier. Now, I'm not saying it can't work overseas, but I personally would keep it in the US. The overall point here is that virtual assistants are not just customer service reps. So you need to stop thinking of VAs as task robots and start thinking of them more as operations engines for your business. And if you're already thinking, okay, I do need to hire somebody like this sounds fantastic, we at Coconut actually offer 40 hours of free work, so you can test out a VA before committing to anything. There's a link down in the description below, click that, book a call with our team, and we can chat about what it could look like for you. But also let me walk you through the rest of the process first, because there's a right way and a wrong way to do all of this. How to prepare for delegation. So first, you need to figure out what to delegate. Open your project management software, review all the tasks you completed that day, that week, that month. Use the Eisenhower matrix to categorize tasks. So this is a simple framework where you basically sort tasks into 4 quadrants based on urgency and importance. So important and urgent, these are tasks that you need to do yourself probably right now. Important but not urgent, these are tasks that you should schedule time for later for yourself. Now, urgent but not important, these are tasks that need to get done, but not necessarily by you. And then there's also not urgent and not important. These are tasks that you should probably just delete entirely. So the quadrant that you want to focus on is urgent but not important. These are things that need to get done, but not necessarily by you. So then you need to develop standard operating procedures, or SOPs for short. Record yourself doing the task on Loom and commentate what you're doing. Then you can download this transcript, give it to ChatGPT, Gemini, and ask it to turn it into an SOP. So now when you hire someone, you can hand them the SOP as well as the original Loom video for both the step-by-step process and a visual aid. I actually have a full video on how to create these SOPs, so make sure you check that video out next if this is something that you need help with. Now, how do you find the right remote talent? The Philippines is the best place, in my opinion, to hire remote talent from anywhere from $10 to $16 an hour. You can source remote workers with near native English. There's also lower fraud rates compared to other outsourcing countries. 2020, there were 4,000 cases of online fraud in India. Compare that to 800 cases in the Philippines. That's 80% less. People from the Philippines have a very strong work ethic and US business experience. And many of the talented Filipinos are moving to freelancing because employers are requiring them to return to the office rather than work remotely, which started during COVID. So in terms of actually hiring somebody, you need to have a thorough vetting process. Don't just hire the first person who applies. Before being placed, each candidate should go through multiple vetting steps. First, an experience evaluation to make sure they can actually do the job. Then a personality test to see if they're a good fit for American companies. Some kind of English proficiency test for clear communication. And then also an intro video requirement so you can hear their English on camera. I also recommend initial interviews to evaluate personality, cultural fit. So what should you actually look for in candidates? You want to find quick, concise, proactive communication. This means that they reach out before you have to chase them down. Second, turnaround time on tasks. Can they get things done efficiently and quickly? Third, a growth mindset. Are they willing to learn and to improve? And fourth, the ability to communicate throughout a process. So you want somebody who says, hey, this is where I'm at. I should be done by this date. Here's the problems that I've had so far, but here's my solutions. Here's what I've been able to work through so far. And all of that without you having to ask or to follow up with them a ton. And once you find truly great people, hold on to them. Pay them well above their asking rate and trust them to do their thing. One truly great employee can do so much to further your business. Hiring several mediocre people who don't believe in what you're building and who don't have that proactive personality or mentality will only hurt you in the long run. So take the time to find the right person and then treat them well. Also, don't skip on benefits. Consider offering healthcare if you can, PTO, holidays, all of those. Because remote employees who really feel valued and supported will stay longer and they will work harder. So it's really just a smart business move as well as just being the right thing to do. How do you onboard remote employees? Okay, so now that you've figured out who you need to hire and you've found the right person for the role, let's talk about the onboarding process. The first 2 weeks are critical because it takes people roughly 2 weeks to master a repeatable process to the point where they don't need you anymore. In those first 2 weeks, over communicate and provide as much information as possible. If you hold back, they're going to keep coming back to you for more questions. The goal is to help them build up confidence and empower them to solve problems on their own. So celebrate all of those small wins, especially at the beginning. And when they do something right, please tell them. It sounds simple, but it makes a huge difference, especially early on. And it's also great to give constructive feedback when things are not quite right. Don't let the small issues slide and build up into bigger ones down the road, and then show them there's a path forward. And again, show them what they are doing well. If they can see opportunities for growth, whether that's more responsibility, new skills, higher pay, they're going to be way more invested in doing great work today. You should also set up report systems. So track hours worked and tasks completed so you can tie performance to outcomes. I recommend having daily reports at first so you can stay on top of what is being done. And then once you've been able to work together for a while, you can move that to weekly reports. For calls, I'd recommend a weekly check-in to start with. 15 to 30 minutes to align on priorities, answer questions, and make sure that nothing is falling through the cracks. Over time, you might not even need this. So now that you've hired and onboarded your remote employee, your VA, what does working with them actually look like day to day? First, let's talk about time zones. A lot of people worry about this, but Filipino talent can work US hours. It's a very common practice in the Philippines. So then you're not waking up to a bunch of messages from overnight. You're working together at the same time. For payment, you'll need to set up international transfers. A service like Wise or Payoneer, they make it pretty straightforward, fairly simple. Most remote employee contracts are month to month too, so you're not locked into long-term commitments. In terms of tools, individuals, you're giving them access to your systems just like any other employee as much as possible. So give them access to your CRM, project management software, email, your calendar, whatever they need to do the job well. You don't want to think of them as some external contractor working in a silo. They should become part of your tech stack, of your team. They really should feel like a part of your organization. Now, here's how the relationship typically evolves over time. At first, you'll be assigning specific tasks, do this, do that. Over time, they will start anticipating what needs you have before you even ask, especially if you've done well in those first 2 weeks, in those first 3 months, to really build up their confidence and to really encourage that proactivity. Eventually, they'll be able to manage entire projects or even areas of your business without you being involved. But a lot of founders do mess this up. They hire someone, they hand them a few tasks, and then wonder why they're not taking initiative 6 months later. Make sure to always share the context behind what you're asking them to do so they can learn more about your business, they can learn how you operate, and again, they can start to solve problems on their own in the future. The more that they understand your business, the more they can think ahead and take things off of your plate without being asked. You do all of this by building systems and processes where you're not needed in the day-to-day ops. A great VA is the foundation of all of that. They execute the processes so that you can step away and focus on the high leverage work, or take an actual vacation without checking your phone every 5 minutes. Now, everything I just walked through, the vetting process, the interviews, setting up payments, onboarding, benefits, all of that, it can be a lot. And if you want to do it yourself, you absolutely can. But if you are serious about hiring remote talent and you want to find the very best talent and you don't want to spend weeks figuring all of this out, that's exactly what we do at Coconut. We handle the sourcing, the vetting, English proficiency tests, personality assessments, all of it. You just need to tell us what role you need, and we will find you the top 1% of candidates that actually fit. So if you want to stop doing $20 an hour tasks, $10 an hour tasks, and focus on the high leverage work that will actually grow your business, click the first link in the description below and book a free call with us. On that call, we'll help you figure out exactly what roles you need to fill, what to delegate, and whether we're a good fit to help you find the perfect remote team member. So again, click that first link in the description below and book a call with us. And if you want to see how somebody who started as my executive assistant eventually became our CEO, watch this video next.